Today I'll be pulling back the curtain to give you guys a little behind the scenes look at the how and why of the content that I produce on this channel. The very first thing I want to share with you is that very little of the gear and equipment that I'm using and that I'm going to show you is what I would recommend to anyone who's looking to do similar things. This is just gear that I had previously before even moving here, and so my thought process is that I wouldn't really spend very much money at all accumulating new gear until after at least the first year. And after the first year, if I felt like this YouTube thing was a sustainable thing, then I would consider upgrading gear. But if that was something that after a year I wasn't really feeling or didn't really feel like there was much value I was able to add through the channel, or there wasn't much interest in the channel, then I would think about scaling down and kind of dropping it. And so that means that almost all the gear that I'll be showing you was stuff that I already had laying around the house back in the US that I decided to bring with us here. And so a lot of this equipment is not going to be super recent or super new or super effective in the types of things I'm using it for. However, it's what I have and it's what I'm using, and I think it's done an okay job up to this point. So I'm actually shooting with my main camera right now, so let me go ahead and switch them out so I can show you what I'm working with. So here it is. So this is my Pentax K5. Now, like I said earlier, this is not a camera that I bought specifically for video. In fact, the video capabilities on this camera is extremely limited. And so this is actually primarily a stills or photo camera. This is a camera that I bought about 10 years ago. But this is what I have available, and so I'm kind of making use of it for what it's worth. So there are actually some pretty big challenges of using this camera for video. One of which is that it is a manual focus camera, which means it won't automatically focus depending on if you move up and down or side to side. That's not going to pick you up. And so you have to make sure that you manually focus by moving the lens ring here. And that becomes challenging as well, coupled with the fact that it does not have any sort of flip out screen. And so that means that when you're shooting yourself, you have absolutely no idea if you're in focus or even how you're being framed within the shot. And so that led me then to purchase this external monitor. There's a really cheap monitor. In fact, any of the more advanced ones didn't have the right plugins to fit into my camera. And so this is just a really cheap monitor that while I'm shooting myself, I can see both the focus as well as where I'm framed within. Because nothing is more frustrating than getting done shooting a video and then going into editing it and realizing that the entire thing was out of focus. And so that's something that I can avoid for the most part with using this external monitor. These are just clothesline clips that I'm attaching here because the bracket for the external monitor broke pretty recently after getting here, and so this is one way of keeping the screen flat so I can look at it and not tilting up, which would kind of defeat the whole purpose of why I'm using it. The only thing else that's not included here is actually I have an external mic that I'm actually attaching currently to my iPhone that I'm filming from, and so I'll shoot some B-roll and you can see it right here. But this is a fairly inexpensive, kind of small external mic. A lot of the microphones on both the iPhone as well as this one especially is really poor quality, and so just having a little bit better quality microphone could go a long way in helping the audio. Another limitation of this camera is that it does not have any image stabilization whatsoever. And so if you're using this handheld, it will not only pick up, but it will magnify any little shake or bump. So that means anytime I'm walking about, anytime that I'm moving around, for the most part, I won't be able to use this camera, especially since the editing software that I'm using does not have any bit of stabilization in post-production. And so that's kind of challenging. And so that means that anytime I'm out of the compound or I'm walking around or I'm showing you guys anything other than just a talking headshot, for the most part, I'm using the second camera setup. So I'll give you guys a look at that. So this is my mobile setup. So like I said, anytime I'm going outside the compound, so for example, the motorcycle video or the market video or us getting street food or several others, most of the time I'm using this thing. And so this is actually a pretty easy pretty low maintenance setup I have here. The resolution's actually pretty good. In fact, it's actually significantly better resolution than my primary camera. However, I just don't like the image quality as well as I do on my Pentax, and so whenever it's a static shot, I'll use this one. Whenever it's something that's out and about for either convenience or even for the image stabilization, I'll use the iPhone. And this wire right here will attach to the external microphone that goes above here that, again, I'm using on the camera that's shooting this here. And so I usually just hold this up and kind of film myself kind of like so, and that's how I get those walking and talking shots. So the next, and really the last major item that I use to produce these videos, and maybe actually the most important one, is my iPad. And so back in the States I had a laptop computer. I decided to switch from a laptop to an iPad because they're making pretty high quality iPads. They're a little bit cheaper, as well as I could double this for an e-reader as far as being able to read books and things like that, since books are heavy and anything heavy is hard to get over here. So most of the more common and high quality video editing software is made specifically for laptops and computers, not mobile devices. And so the one that I'm using is not as well known, but it's probably the best quality video editing software for mobile devices, and that's called LumaFusion. And that's actually been a very helpful product for me. It's been really simple to use, as well as also having plenty of features to keep me busy as I try to advance and improve my editing a little bit. So my workflow with this is actually pretty simple, and it's gotten really, really efficient. I'm able to just take the SD card from my main camera, attach it through an adapter, and download the files to my iPad. All the content that I film with my iPhone, I'm able just to airdrop it to here, so I have it all in one place. I'm able to edit everything together in LumaFusion, and then export that, obviously, to YouTube. So now I want to segue into sharing with you guys a little bit about my approach and why I share these videos. So one of the first bits of advice that any YouTube guru, anyone giving advice about starting a YouTube channel, the first thing I'll tell you is define your target audience. And so my target audience is 17-year-old Dan. And what I mean by that is that 17-year-old Dan had a heart and had a passion for the possibility of moving overseas. However, I had no idea how to do that. I had no idea what that would be like. I had no idea how to prepare myself for that. I had no idea what I should be learning or growing in. So this channel is a resource for someone who is like that. That's my intended audience, is the individuals who are open and even passionate about the idea of moving abroad and being able to give them a glimpse and a window into our lifestyle here. And obviously anywhere that you would go would be different than where we are, but this is just something that I would have loved to have 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 2 or 3 years ago. And so if I can share something that I would have liked when I was in that phase of life, then maybe this could be a resource for someone who's in a similar position. And I know that not everyone who benefits and enjoys these videos is going to fall into that category, but my main intended audience is trying to equip and trying to help individuals that are not yet at the point of moving abroad, but they're wanting to know how to get there, and they're wanting to know what that's like before they make that decision. And hopefully this channel can be a benefit to someone like that. The next thing I'll say is that my video production efforts of producing these YouTube videos is such a lesser priority to me than the actual reason that I moved here, which is to teach the lost, build up my brethren, teach the Bible, serve this community, grow with my family through our experiences here. And the YouTube stuff, it comes far second. That means that if I'm ever in a situation where pulling out a camera could potentially have a negative effect on the dynamic of that environment, meaning that if it makes the person that I'm studying with or the Christians I'm around or the environment that I'm in, if it makes that situation awkward or uncomfortable because I'm pulling out a camera because I want to film something to upload on my YouTube channel, I will never do that. I will not compromise the opportunities and my service here in order to upload videos here on YouTube. So that's one reason why you've not seen a whole lot of footage regarding local brethren here, or new converts, or people I'm studying with, because I'm entering a brand new culture. And I'm not sure how pulling up a camera in certain scenarios will affect that dynamic. So that means until I feel confident that filming inside those situations won't have a negative effect upon those people or upon that dynamic, I'm gonna use self-restraint and hold back from filming in those sorts of environments. All right, guys, I'm not really sure if this video should have been 1 or 2 or 3 separate videos. However, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an explanation regarding my approach and mentality toward these videos, as well as sharing with you guys a very practical look at how they're produced. Thanks so much for all the support and for the views and for the subscriptions. All these things just further confirm to me that whatever time I do have to be able to share on this platform, it's worth it and it's benefiting people. And that's just all I need in order to keep going. So thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.